You found a quiet corner of your mind, a shelf where all the broken things were piled. The stories told in whispers and in scars brought you here beneath these waiting stars. Not for a fix or just to soothe the ache, but for the chance that something new could break. So let the silence hold you like a seam where every thread of hope begins to gleam. This is the in-between. Welcome to the butterfly room, where healing's not an end, it is a tune. You learn to hum and gender afternoons. Transformation blooms from a cocoon of questions you'll be led to see the colors waiting in the thread. Welcome to the butterfly room. We'll hold the lens up to the hidden part, the dormant art that's beating in your heart. We'll map the change, the subtle, steady turn, the lessons that the aftermath can learn. Not to erase the lines that make your man, but to unfold the wings and cross the gap and watch the old shell fragile drift away, making space for the new light of day. In this alchemical space, welcome to the butterfly.
That's right. Welcome to the Butterfly Room. We've got this amazing show where people learn about the way that we develop and the way that we are created and all along those lines, because we are constantly, like the butterfly, metamorphosizing and everything along those lines. So we are constantly in a state of change, and sometimes it is things that are forced on it. Sometimes it is things that we were expecting, and all along those lines. But Miss Toya is going to talk about that because she's got a great guest that has definitely gone through a lot of change and everything like that. So I'm going to get out of the way and let them have this very powerful conversation and everything like that, because I love the title, The Butterfly Room, and everything like that, because I know that we all are constantly changing and constantly developing and going through life changes, whether it's through relationships, whether it's through careers, whether it's through a number of ways that we are constantly changing and all along those lines. So that's part of what you do in your work, but it's also part of what you do just in your own life and everything like that. So I'm glad to be here and to hear your conversation with your guests and all along those lines. So I'm going to step out of the way. I don't know if you got this dedication you want to make as well, but I'm going to let you share what you got going on in your life. And then, of course, you'll be bringing in your guests very shortly as well. But always great to see you, Toya. You're always doing amazing things up there in the Northeast. As my friend Dean Geronimo says, from New Jersey to North Carolina, because I'm in North Carolina and everything like that. So that's the way he introduces Straight Talk with Dean and Mark, which is another show that we do here on the network as well. But that's the way he always talks. It is about he's in New Jersey and I'm here in North Carolina. So that's usually his introduction, because he's got that wonderful radio voice and radio style and everything like that. So
yes, Dean. What's up, Dean? Thank you so much, Mark, for introducing me to the Butterfly Room and its listeners this evening. It's been pivotal in our lives and how we get up every day. We deal with the hustle and bustle. But when you have babies that you've known for years, from the age of 5 and 6, and when these losses and they come too soon, and as I know, as I go to the brink of making a half a century next year, just letting you know how blessed we are to be in the land of the living. But today's episode 13 is dedicated to my son's homies, his day ones, his besties. They've known each other since football, school. And unfortunately, the tanker accident that happened in Edison was a very close hit for Exit 9. So this show is dedicated to Malachi Whitehorse and Stephen Mazier. Tyree loves you. The Geeson family loves you. And today, we just want to know, we want to have a moment of silence for these young soldiers Thank you, Mark. We love you. We wish you. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, Mark. Whew. Today, we're going to meet a survivor, a fierce survivor, who is Crystal Shakir. And before I introduce her, let her come out and tell us who she is. I'm going to just tell you a little bit about her. Crystal Shakir is a two-time cancer survivor, passionate advocate, and beacon of hope for individuals navigating the emotional and physical journey of cancer. With unshakable strength and unwavering faith, Crystal has turned her own trials into triumphs, using her story to inspire, uplift, and empower others facing similar battles. She's also a resident of New Jersey. So I hope some of you were able to get the book so you can read along with me as I tell the pages. But Mark, please bring in our special guest, Crystal. Good evening, Queen.
Hi, Toya. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm blessed. And I just know that anytime that I get ready to start my show and it's going to be a little technical difficulties, because the last one, episode 12, we had someone else on. We had a little bit of difficulties. However, it was in the show. She could see us, but we couldn't hear. So now I know that's when I know that the spirit is moving, because someone out there, as we know, there's an adversary. We have to acknowledge that at times when we don't really want to. But I know that you are. I know whose side you on, because I'm looking at you and I'm seeing that you're fierce like a phoenix. So how are you doing, Crystal?
I'm here. Blessed to be here.
Amen.
In spite
Amen.
of everything, you know.
Yes. And I just want the listeners to know how I know Miss Crystal. So basically, I'm her financial advisor. So we speak in another platform. So one day we were just talking about life changes. She said, I'll put this book out. I said, really? I said, well, I'm going to let you know I actually unfolded my butterfly room. I had been talking about it and vetting it. And so then I asked if she wanted to be on my show. And here we are. See how God put you in alignment, and I've known you for some time. I actually an advisor to your sister as well. So I think about that and how sometimes we don't know the power of our existence and our purpose. And just now looking at this and knowing another side to her, to know her based on paper. So just think about it, to know someone just without, you just see their name, their information, and then now you get to know a little bit about them. And all I did, have one conversation, and now we are here, May 22nd, 2026. How do you feel about that?
Well, I am excited to share my journey so that I could, empower and help others that may be going through not just cancer, but any type of situation, illness, or disease.
Yes. And I think that we definitely need that, because sometimes we do suffer in silence. And I said, when I was speaking to a colleague, I said, my show this month, it is actually May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look how the alignment occurred, how I set out. I said, I'm going to go every other week because I'm on the couch, and I'm not sure if Dr. Diamond will be coming in today, but she's aware of it. But I started on her platform because, in our capacity, she asked me to speak and tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, everything just unfolded. I had my little book, Be Still. You see, everything you can tell is very used. And all I do is write. And I think that exactly what you're saying, it may not have to be a health issue. It could just be something going on. Because we, especially women of color, we want to be strong in all facets. But sometimes we don't know what's on our journey. And here you says, my journey of faith and healing after survivor twice. Your title is self-explanatory.
Right.
And what made you hone in on that?
Fears.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like I was fierce because of all the different obstacles that I situations that I've gone through both times with cancer. So fears, to me, my definition of fears that describe me is having strength and possessing willfulness to live, because that was my fight, and just refusing to allow the disease to define me, and determine my destiny. So I didn't allow the disease to overtake what I was going through. It's a whole, mindset thing.
Yes.
Sometimes we get, when you find out or get the news that you have cancer, the first thing you think is, oh, you know, why me? That's human nature. But, um, as time go on, you just think, okay, I'm going to beat this. The whole mindset. You have to be strong to
Mm-hmm.
help get you through, and just talk to yourself and know that you could get through it.
Yes, and you made a clue that we call that positive self-talk. Now, just thinking about that, I know that for other folks that I've been close to, they'll have different support groups, and that's how I basically started this. I was a paid professional, and
Hmm.
then what happens is when we went to fee for service, there were a lot of charity care ended. So as I thought about that, and I would see people that I grew up with, I guess they had a mental breakdown walking on the street and everything. So that means that if you don't do these particular things, so for example, I worked for social services for 2 years earlier in my career. So I was
Hmm.
issuing TANF, food stamps, and Medicaid. And just seeing all that, then you see people that you may know. So that was one of the reasons why I changed careers and went to Essex County to work,
Hmm.
because I kept seeing people that I knew. And it's hard because you're trying to grow in your career. So right
Right.
now, what you're saying is people could be right next to someone you really don't know what someone goes through. So there's a fight. It could be a loss of a job, loss of a mate. In this particular case, it was a health thing. So you get what I mean? So now the support aspect of that, you are mentioning some words. So part of your treatment plan, did they enroll you in a support group, or what did you do since you mentioned that word? Because we call that positive self-talk. You're talking to yourself.
Well, I mean, think. Are you talking about the first time or the second time?
Well, whatever. This is your thing. We're meeting Crystal, so we can do whatever you want. Because I have your book, and we're gonna guide and let folks know that you're a two-time survivor. So that's the main thing. So I'm gonna give you your kudos right now, because there could be a listener on here who may have had the first one and may not be understanding
Okay.
what's next, but you had it twice.
Right.
Someone to tell you that news, and in her book, it also talks about when she received the news. But you just said the positive self-talk, and that just hit my spirit.
Right. So, initially, human nature kicks in when you first find out. Of course, the first time I found out about cancer was when I was 15 years old.
Mhm.
I was a teenager, and of course, it's a scary thing because you're not really familiar with.
Yeah, you're not
Um,
even 21 years old. You're not
right.
mentally developed.
Right. So, at 15, when you hear the word cancer, you thinking death. Because at that age, everybody that I knew that had cancer, they passed away pretty
Mhm.
much. So that's the first thing that went through my mind. So at 15, you're thinking about, why do I have to go through this?
Yeah.
Um, all I could think about is enjoying the rest of my high school years. Nobody wants to go to at 15, visiting the doctors constantly, or you know, but it was pretty devastating. But thankfully at that age, I didn't really have like a support group of like it was my family,
Yes.
my
But that's
parents.
all you need, though.
That's all you
Mm.
need. If you have a good family, that's all you need. Friends and all that stuff. Like, you don't really think about that. Um, so I got through it. It was a very hard um year, difficult
Walk.
year,
I
because
was going to say it was a hard walk.
it was a
Because you
hard
walking,
walk.
sister. You walking.
I had the surgery. It was extensive surgery for 16 hours.
Mhm.
You know, and then the recovery part. The thought of when they tell you have to have chemotherapy, radiation. The thought of losing my hair was
Yes. Are we
devastating to
ladies?
me. You know,
That's it.
and I didn't want to be, a teenager with no hair. At that age, you think you're gonna get teased. Oh, she don't have hair, or she have to wear a wig. Finding the right hair to fit, your face and everything. So it was pretty devastating. But as time went on, after I had my surgery and the part of losing my hair, it was kind of, I didn't, what, believe it or not, at 15, I did not cry when I lost my hair. You know why? Because at that time, there was a lady that I knew. She went to the same church as myself, and at that time, she was battling a different a cancer, and she lost.
You had a warrior next to you then.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
God gave you a warrior. See, that's now you telling us how you telling the world how you were able to get through.
Right. So at the time when I was losing my hair was pretty much sitting on my scalp at that point. It was already coming out of the the root. So it was just pretty much hanging on by a thread. So she told my mom that she would take me to get a wig.
Nice.
In North. They had nice different kind of wigs. So her and I went to the wig shop, and I tried on the wig or whatever. So when I got back home, she was like, all right, Crystal, this stuff, you just start, she started helping me pull my hair out. All you see is the scalp, and we're laughing. She's like, take this stuff on, And, we joked about it, and, I felt,
it was like a fresh start. Some people say that
start, and then it was a cute wig. It was actually a cute wig, so I was okay with it. But then, I would joke around. I don't know if you remember back in the day when there were the touch lamps. Remember the touch lamps? You turn it like brighter.
You could do like different levels. Yes.
So one day, I was sitting. I didn't have my wig on, right? But I was sitting on the. I think my sister was sitting in the bed. Her and I shared a room, so she was sitting on her bed next to me, and I accidentally bumped the touch lamp with my head. And I'm like, how did that happen? It's like your head. Oh, it was hilarious, but
But sometimes they say that laughing is good for the soul. So you had a moment of a transition, but then you were able to laugh. And sometimes they say live, love, laugh. And when you go through something and you have empathy, an empathetic person, and then you have to shed that. So that was a way of you starting anew. As you said, at the beginning, you didn't want to, then you were able to do this. So thanks for sharing that. That is very, I can feel it because I'm an empath. I can feel the energy of that. And just for someone else to hear it, you're not alone. You're not alone. Start anew.
Right.
I want to get into this book. I'm going to go through the table of contents here. It says, the first blow, facing the initial diagnosis, which we went into, the navigating the surgery part. Then it says, the strategy of round 2. But before that, it says unexpected return, coping with a recurrence. So now for anyone that's listening, you were a minor when your first diagnosis was. So now the second one is adult. Now, how many decades from there, if you want to, you can share with the readers who have not bought the book, but would be compelled to go get the book. So you got through that. Now in your remission, how long were you in remission then, basically?
Let me see, 15. It was about it was a big gap. Let me see.
Okay, that's a blessing right there in itself.
26 years.
Amen. Amen. Because one of the things we don't understand is that sometimes it could be environmental factors. It could be a lot, precursors. I know for myself, some people say, oh, you're a hypochondriac. No, I'm not a hypochondriac. What happens is cancer runs in my family on both sides. So I think that, when you have to have screening, people don't realize that screening is very important.
Yes.
I'm going to share, since, I've had precancerous tissue cut off out of my body twice.
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking about that, for people who die from colon cancer, it runs on both sides. So thinking about a polyp, the very first colonoscopy, and I got it before age. So luckily the surgeon was able to get them. They were semi-sessile. Semi-sessile is considered flat. Normally in your colon is supposed to be like mushrooms, so it's not. So for folks who have not had a colonoscopy, it used to be 50, it's changing. However, I knew my history, but at that time it was only on my mother's side that there was history. So then once I get there, my dad says, oh, I had those too. And as with men are not as forthcoming with information. So that means that's times two. You understand? So with that being said, now with the type of cancer that you had, was there heredity there, or was it just the first time you were the first person with that type of cancer diagnosis in your family?
I was the first person, and at that age as well, like they actually had to do a study and my surgery to teach the other doctors, so they filmed it.
An anomaly. What they call that is an anomaly. You're one of the first.
Yeah. I was one of the first. So at that time, it was very rare. So they did a case study, and the doctor that performed the surgery, he was one of the head chief surgeons in New York at Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital. And the surgery, because it was so much to do, I mean, they had to actually remove a whole bone mandible and replace it. It took about 16 hours for that surgery. Right? It took 16 hours. And because of the extensive time that it took, right after surgery, both of my lungs collapsed.
See, you're a miracle. You're a walking miracle. And thank you, because meeting you, I would have never known. And this is what I was saying. I met you on a business setting. And now we're on an interpersonal setting. And I have a light. Don't know what that is reference to what people can see. I just know that what I'm told, and I know what I feel. And sometimes I feel we are vessels. In my heart of hearts, we are vessels if anyone is a believer. And when we are faced with these things, I wanted this particular platform to be able to motivate folks. And now in the month of May, you're giving someone the motivation to say, as a child, you had a rare form of cancer. So now we get to where we are now, 20 some decades later. Now this recurrence, was it at a different part? Because I want folks to buy the book. So we're going to keep it, whatever you want to share. But when you got the second round of treatment, was it a relapse, or this was a different type of cancer?
No, actually, it was a different type of cancer. Breast cancer.
Yes.
The first time it was mandible, the second time breast. Now, I'm not sure if it was an effect from treatment previous, because I had to have radiation and chemotherapy.
Yes.
But at the same time, it could have been possibly hormonal, because I was pregnant. Well, actually, I didn't discover the cancer. I didn't find out it was actually cancer until after I gave birth to my son. So in 2011, March, I was, I was pregnant, and I discovered the lump on my breast, but I thought it was hormonal. Okay. So I didn't find out until after I gave birth to my son in May. After nursing, I saw the lump had protruded.
Okay.
So that's when I called, the doctor and told them, about this lump. And they told me to come in and have a biopsy. And that's when I discovered the breast cancer.
And that's amazing to hear that, this journey, and to hear you speak. And you said, I'm not really a public speaking person. All you're doing is speaking about you. Didn't I tell you? Right. You're just speaking about you. And when you said uplifting this journey, this is a wish that you had. Just so happened that God allowed us to be aligned at the same time. And we had been in contact already. And that's where I feel that We walk by faith, not by sight. And just me getting into understanding what this is, the connection, and me wanting to continue to be a steward and be able to help folks. Because
Right.
now we have so much homelessness. And I'm a movie rat. The family
Mhm.
praise. Remember the guy that was in the um what's her name? Alfre Woodard. Remember how he came into there and she was a millionaire. No one ever knew. And then at the end, the guy that was there, they allowed him to take a bath. And Sanaa Lathan was like, no, no, no. But he was a millionaire at one point, had a breakdown. You don't really know what happens. And I guess they do, But that point is that everybody goes through something. And
Right.
sometimes you might need someone. He had someone to hang on. You said in your particular case, it was your family. Then
Right.
later on, despite your age, you were able to find love.
Right.
You see what I mean? How
Yes.
you had the infrastructure, and that's a blessing because without that, you may not have been able to sustain. But he gave you everything, as the poem says, footsteps in the sand. I
Hmm.
had a lot of losses, different things. And I say about cancer is that I was aware. I said, I don't care if you call me a hypochondriac. So in my particular case, it was 3 precancerous polyps. So then I went back. They said to come back in 3 years, right?
Hmm.
They found more. However, I had to change my diet. So I have a team of
Right.
doctors to make sure that everything is good. But now I'm in the best health. But
Right.
sometimes, but the thing is I had the COVID vaccine. So that also,
Mhm.
different things. People don't really know. No one knows about that. There's other things
Mhm.
that we've taken over the years, maybe some of the pesticides, we really don't know. So in your particular case, you're saying that you didn't have a history. Here, I didn't know both the histories. Then the other one, I have fibromatosis. So basically, I had this tumor just came out of nowhere. Did not know where it came from.
Right.
So they took it out. So that's one of the things that I can say is that you cannot ignore. As you just said, it
Right.
was lump. Do not ignore anything. Women, October, if you have to do annually, as they say, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And that's
Right.
something that you're never going to forget because think pink. So, in
Right.
just proper maintenance, make sure you get your annual physicals, blood work every 6 months.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to
Can't
go,
ignore it.
no, you
You
can't.
can't ignore anything that's rare. Like some people
Mhm.
ignore it, thinking it's gonna just go away on its own. Like any little thing that's just off for me, I'm gonna get it checked out.
Yes. And even now, so what does your routine look like? Now because you don't want to be worried. So
Right.
what is your because I'm looking through, we're gonna get to the spiritual part of that, but what is your routine now? Looks now that you're a 2-time survivor. What do you do? Like what is your routine? Any special supplements that you take to care to share with our listeners?
Um. Yes, I do. I'm always reading up on different things that help to fight against cancer cells.
Okay.
Our
Example.
bodies. I'm sorry.
For example, what do you take?
I do vitamin D. I do now I do zeolite. You need to cleanse your blood.
And where do
I
you get zeolite at? You said zeolite?
zeolite, Zeolite. I
Okay, where do
ordered
you
it.
get that at?
Um, I ordered it actually from an herbalist. Um,
Hmm.
I
You care to
share.
share what it does? Because this is something I've never heard about. Thank you.
Ooh. I mean, it's good for it's good for cancer, diabetes. It cleans your blood. It's good for memory. It's just you know what? Let me think of it.
Well,
It's
thank you.
just
It's kind of like zinc. You know how they say when you're getting sick, you're supposed to for your immune system, vitamin C
yes,
and
you have
zinc.
to keep your immune system up to
Hmm.
because your body. I mean, cancer can't live in the oxygen, so you have to give your body oxygen.
Thank you for that tip. Now that's important. So
And you know what? I don't do dairy because dairy causes inflammation,
yes, that is
which
correct.
causes cancer. Sugar, white sugar,
Hmm.
is not good for you. It feeds cancer feeds on sugar. Okay, zeolite is good for cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia,
And,
autism, leaky gut, chronic back pain, GERD, diarrhea, heavy metals. It takes out the heavy metals in your body. Um, just shingles,
And what
hot
is
flashes.
can you hold you have the bottle with you, or you just looking at something?
I was just looking at the
Oh
benefits
no,
of it.
no worries. Because what we're gonna do is you're gonna text me, and I'm going to when you get after the show, you're gonna send me the information. I'm gonna post it on the Butterfly Room page on Facebook so you
Mm-hmm.
guys can see it. Because right
Mm-hmm.
now, that's basically what people are doing. I hear folks going to Turkey and other countries to get healed. Remember, Magic
Mm-hmm.
Johnson had HIV. Now he's testing free. There's certain things. Money talks.
Yes, it
So thank you
does.
for sharing that, because one of the things with me with inflammation, having different orthopedic issues, GI issues, the dairy is
Mm-hmm.
no longer, because I know now some people become lactose intolerant. So it's interesting that you
Yes,
say that. So if you
I
do a
am
self
lactose.
inventory, we don't do
Yes,
self inventory.
exercise. You
Hmm.
know, is very
And
important
sometimes
because
you
your
have to
body
look
has
at
to
your
move.
yes.
You
And you have
know.
to look at your excretion. People don't realize that with gut health, you need to look at your bowel movements, because one of the things that I know, you look at it and you can see if
Mm-hmm.
your bio is orange, that means, when people have jaundice, there's something going on. It should be
Right.
based on, if you have green vegetables, it should really look like that. It should be
Mm-hmm.
processing. The other thing too, when it's dark and tarry, that means it could be blood or something like that, a package.
Right.
Also, looking at the way it looks, the appearance, because if it looks stringy or something like that, there could be
Mm-hmm.
a blockage. We're going to learn here in the Butterfly Room. We're going to talk about it, because sometimes they say we are what we eat. And I have
For
said that here
sure.
before. And I just know I got some issues. And since I've changed, which I laugh, oh, you want a drug? No, I'm not. I'm eating healthier.
That's for
Believe it or
sure. And
not.
meat,
Hmm.
red meat. That stuff
I
is.
need it, but liver has become my red meat, because I don't digest the beef, and that's when you're high risk for that in the GI. Yes,
Yeah,
there's it can live there. Hmm.
I don't eat. I don't eat meat. Only thing I eat is fish or salmon because
Okay.
red meat. And now it's unfortunate that a lot of the foods that they have is processed. They're producing it
Wow.
too fast. They're injecting it with things. That's why you hear of every time you turn around, you're hearing about people getting cancer. It's ridiculous.
So basically, just for us to share. So now what I hear from you this evening is that you've changed your whole diet, your
Yes,
approach to things. So now when you have gone back and you say in the decades, would you say that has helped you sustain this based on what you've added, what the doctor gave you, plus your own research of holistic care?
I would say so by the grace of God, though, in prayer.
And
I mean, because we just
that
don't
too,
know what
mainly,
we're going to
mainly
face.
that.
I mean, people. I mean, people try to eat healthy. The healthiest people never had any type of problems pop up with cancer. It could be the air we breathe.
Hmm.
It's chemicals. It could be anything. So all I
Yes,
know is I'm doing the best of my knowledge and praying that, stay away, but we just don't know from one day to the next.
correct. And I just want to, say that as a believer, as we say, the spiritual sense, like, and even with mental health, spirituality is the glue, because
That's
that's your state of mind. Because there is
right.
a warfare. But I want to get into this book here. But I want to
Hmm.
start with one thing. I'm gonna go a little bit backwards on page 69. The encouragement thing that stood out to me was you said warrior. And I like the fact that she broke it down. And I'm gonna share it. So I'm gonna read it so the folks can know this is one of the highlights that I love. It says warrior. W is worship despite the challenges they face. A, accept themselves just the way they are. R, refuse to allow negativity to enter their minds. R, remind themselves that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. I, inspire others even though sometimes they are feeling weary. O, overcome by knowing that God is our refuge and strength and ever help in trouble. R, roar like a lion with victory, knowing that you are a winner. When I got to that page, that had me going, because I'm a Leo and I'm a lioness. But I said, wow. So when you wrote that, it's like you're closing it out, and she has a prayer here as well. But that page, it pulled me an encouragement. You left a tidbit. I like to say tidbits, something that allows you to sum it up. So what made you come up with that warrior? What's the story behind the warrior on page 69?
You know what? Believe it or not, I came up with this and I included it in my book because I actually did this for the breast cancer walk, right? To encourage the women that were going through breast cancer. So every year, once a year, I'm part of an organization called Healing Stream Breast Cancer Awareness Group.
Can you repeat that again?
I'm a part of a breast cancer awareness organization called Healing Stream.
Healing Stream.
Yes.
Is it healingstream.org, or what's the website? So if anyone listening wanted to
Healing Stream BCA.org. It's a small organization where we actually we just meet the needs of people in small community. We're a small organization, but we try to meet the immediate needs of women that are going through breast cancer. Yes, whether it's for like if they need assistance with groceries or whatever they need may be, like if they need assistance with cleaning service, we may help pay for that. Every 2 years we do a scholarship team, and it's for women that are battling breast cancer. They may have a child going to college, we give them a scholarship, choose children to do that. Once a year we have a walk. That's how we get our funding, through our breast cancer walks every year.
And what county are you in? Because I know you're in South Jersey. So is this
I'm in South Jersey, so it's in Mercer County.
Okay, and if you would, for the listeners, what month does that happen? Just in October as well, or is it at a different time?
It's in October. Depends on how the calendar falls, but this year it's going to be on, I believe it's October 3rd.
Okay.
Of this year.
Please share the information so folks who maybe want to meet her, meet Crystal, or who just in need of services, because this is what we're trying to do on this platform, is to connect people to things. Because sometimes you need the grassroots. Because I know when we go out to the bigger things, last year we went to the MetLife Stadium. They had that walk. Well, it was my first time. I went with my church, Second Baptist Church of Metuchen, and we had some survivors. So we were the cancer contenders, and just to see that every year, just to do that, and all of the resources that are available, it's really empowering to be there. My family, they're Giants fans. My dad loves Big Blue. So I think that, for anyone, that is a good experience, as well as what you're speaking of, just to be empowered. Because even there, at this time, I have since you mentioned the breast cancer, this is my second scare. They saw something that was on both sides. But again, my faith allows me, because I've been here before. And the good thing here is that as long as there's early detection, and they called me, they said, "You haven't been here." I said, "Well, I got cleared already. You did a punch biopsy." So I looked at that, and because I had so many things going on, I lost my first grandbaby. So it was a lot going on that I just didn't. So at that point, that's when everything changed. So you have to think, when all this changed, I said, you know what? Let me just open up and start talking to folks, because I believe that motivates. And I know today, for anyone listening, they're inspired, because wow, you were a minor and now you're an adult, and now you're happy. You have children, and your children you want to share how many children, the ages, for anyone there wants to believe that they think that I have cancer, I can never be a parent. So you want to share the blessing?
Let me just share this part too. I'm blessed because the first round of chemo that I had when I was 15, they gave me a drug called adriamycin, the Red Devil. So they said that I could adriamycin. That's one of the chemo drugs they gave me. They called it the Red Devil. I didn't even like the name of it. I'm like, who?
Wait a minute. So that's a real name. It's not like a hope, like it says on there, the red. Don't tell me it says that on it.
Well, that's what they call it. That's what they call it, the Red Devil drug, adriamycin.
Okay, wait. Okay, you know how
I
you have
no idea why they call it.
That's a nickname. So what I'm asking, that's a nickname. A nickname. I just want to know, is it printed on the packages? I'm just
no. I don't think it was. That's what they call it, the Red Devil.
Okay, but that name, I don't like the name. I would be like, can you give me another one, please?
And you know what that means, right? What could it possibly do to your body?
Yes, it's gonna shock you out, and next thing you know, it's gonna be like you start all
Well,
over.
you know it's bad because guess what they said? That's the one drug you can never have it again for the rest of your life. So
It does that much damage. That's what it brings me. I'm a visual person, so when I
yes,
see that you're gonna give me something I can only have it once in my life. That's what they said.
yeah, because when I got my second diagnosis, they were asking me if I ever had the drug before, and I did remember because
Wow.
I said, "Was it red?" Yeah, I said, "No, I did have it before."
Okay,
So
well,
they
thank you
told
for
me,
sharing with the Butterfly Room and its listeners because
mm-hmm,
we have to be well informed. I
right,
just know I'm not doing any more vaccines for anything, and I did it, because of work. State, we
yeah,
provide service in our agency. I had to take this medicine, so we really
right,
don't know what's going to happen to people. I know I've heard folks that had a family member that worked at a nursing home, and it got tough because there were staff that were testing repeatedly for COVID. It wasn't around when. Why did the COVID vaccine stay in their system longer than it should?
mm-hmm,
So I feel here, you I'm a believer. So all I know is that how I walk by faith, and faith is believing what you cannot see. So here,
right.
I don't knock anyone and for what they are because I respect you as we're all human beings. Someone here created us. There's a grand architect. But I have a question here. I'm going to ask you one of your questions here because I see there's some reflection and insight. So for anyone, you need to pick up this book because it also is a read as well as it's going to encourage you to go deep inside. It says, what new perspectives or insights have you gained about yourself through your experience of survivorship? Hmm.
Um, huh. Well, I mean, with the many challenges I faced throughout the years, I realized that I'm stronger than I thought I was.
Amen. I'm looking at you, and when you
With the
just
grace of
told
God.
me I tell you, God is amazing. He's amazing because I'm looking at you, and now you're here, your disposition, and people don't understand about that. But I'm gonna let you go because yes, I'm right where you are, hun. The survivor.
And I realized as the years went by, because I'm gonna be honest with you, this is something it took me a long time to be able to talk about. People that knew me, I never discussed it. I ever had cancer when I was a teenager. People found out later on, in life. Only, of course, family members, but I never really wanted to talk about it.
Yes.
But as the years went by, and after my second time, and after hearing about so many people, and it was, I wouldn't say weird, maybe God brought people to me, but people would just start telling me or asking me questions because they knew I was into the health stuff now, and that, I don't know, they come to me and tell me about this person have cancer, that person have cancer. And after a while, I'm like, I am so sick of this daggone cancer, you know? And so I'm
Mhm.
like, I know, and I know that God had a purpose for me going through this, but the time you like, of course, why me? But I realized that he had a plan, and
Mhm.
that plan was for me to be able to encourage other people.
Amen.
Um, and I know I discussed with my mom at the time. She's like, "You should write a book." I said, "No, I'm not doing no book. I could just tell people." But then as time went on, I started jotting things down, and I said, "No, I'm not going to do the book." I wrote stuff down, and I started writing things down that came to mind. My experiences I had at 15, and then moving forward later on. And I'm reflecting, I'm like, wow. And I'm looking at my kids grow up because that one particular drug that told you about, they said I could be sterile. That drug
See,
could make you sterile.
amen.
So,
My God, because you're here. You see those
yeah.
statements. This is what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
just said
then,
what someone said you can't.
right.
Who can tell you that? We don't really know because we know if you're a believer, you know who can tell you what and what not.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because you have two, and you explained how you had the cancer and did not know. The child is okay, right? Health and right?
Yes,
Healthy after that.
yes,
So you
yes.
see what it is when they say with your mammary gland, there's certain things. So that was a blessing right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's already saying something. So I feel, as I stated before, we are all vessels for this. I was told you're going to have 2 knee replacements. No. and I had my accident in 17. But to be able to just have an ACL repair, that's just saying that, you know, you have to take the time. And I did not, you have to think faith first. Then you have to think you have to take responsibility for yourself. Because if you have a surgery, after that, you have to do your part because you don't want to have a setback. So again, the thing here is with belief, it also includes us as well. So your perseverance and your resilience. So now you say fierce. I know Beyonce was Sasha Fierce, right? You know, that was her alter ego. And I always say I got an alter ego. And sometimes you need that to lock in. Because mentally, you know, it can be heavy. And sometimes your brain could be a battlefield. Did you ever feel that at times as you were going through medications, people don't understand women are perimenopausal. I say, I think I know why women and men, you know, when they go through different things, I think men go through a midlife crisis, but for women, we're perimenopausal. You say, oh, I got divorced. Well, because you don't know what it's like to be a woman at this age. You have no idea. I can say this. So imagine going through some type of chemo or something like that. Your body is under attack. And people don't realize that, you know, when it comes down to, I believe I start to think about COVID, you know, not to go down that rabbit hole. I try to keep the rabbit hole closed because you don't want to bring it up. But at that time, as now we look at the economy and we say the Great Depression and looking at everything that's going on, do you know what a depression as a state, if people don't have any motivation, people don't want to work, then the infrastructure of America will be broken down. That's when we say, wake up. So I think that now we all need to be accountable for ourselves, but we have distractions in life, right? Right now, you knew what you needed to do, but you were locked in. Imagine if you were distracted, how would you feel your life, your outcome? Do you think it would have been a little bit different, Crystal?
You mean if I didn't have this situation?
No, meaning that if you did not have that resilience, you didn't have someone, a cheerleader or people there because you were locked in because you had to support. Imagine if you were going through this journey
And didn't
without
have
support.
Oh, definitely be different.
Yes, and I believe we see folks on the street. We don't know why they're there. And I highlighted that before because sometimes we have to reach back. And when you're strong and fierce, so that's where I think for anyone that's listening, you know, here I'm on page 50. It says how spiritual beliefs can provide comfort and strength. I wanted to highlight that before we wrap up because we might have to have you come back or actually go to one of your events because the Butterfly Room will be mobile, definitely. But just looking at, you said the role of faith in a time of crisis. It says, when facing the challenges of a serious illness like cancer, many people turn to their spiritual beliefs or comfort and strength. Faith can serve as a powerful anchor during challenging times, offering solace when the future seems uncertain. Deep. You're making a plan. You get up every day. You know what you have to do. You have a good job. You have everything that you need. And then you have an upset. We all have upsets. It's not just about a health diagnosis. It's anything that can happen. But we need to really think. I always say that I'm a realist. People don't know what a realist is. A realist is a person that gets up and moves forward. You know, from when I'm a cycle breaker and understanding and listening to people, the stories. But now I say, whenever I get to hear to bet on myself, as Marlon E. Curtis prior guests would say, it's not being selfish, it's being able to live out the purpose. Once you raise your children, what do you figure out? What are you going to do? So now that you created your job, you understand you had to make decisions, if you know what I mean. But now you are saying that you're advocating, you're being a person that's going out there volunteering. Does that give you, what does that give you? I don't want to answer it for you. What does that give you? Because now that you're a survivor, but you're doing other things. So how has that became part of the rest of your life?
I just feel like it gives me even more courage to go out and to help inspire other people. I get joy of inspiring other people and listening, you know, because I know what was, you know, when people get that diagnosis, people don't want to hear what your thoughts are. Okay, so I learned to listen, you know, and to their decisions of what they decide to do as far as their treatment plan, you know, but also it makes me feel good to be able to impart in them what my experience was, because people don't want to listen to somebody that never been through it. I
Yes.
do know that. So um, I just think it's a blessing to be able to be able to encourage other people.
Thank you. You are a walking
Mm.
miracle. Walking miracle. And listening to the diagnosis you said as a child, and just see how your beauty, and you had it had to do with your bones, to see you now and just to see how you have grown up in your hair, your makeup, and even the picture you sent me. So I don't know which one. I said I like that one. And just to see that, when you think about then to now, how we look at ourselves. And I know as women, we're looking at what we see in the masses. You have money, you can fix yourself. But now going through losing muscle mass and you're doing it yourself is worth it, right? Do you know when you really push hard and you work for
Mhm.
something, doesn't it feels like it's yours?
Yes, but the thing is, life, it just keeps lifing, because even though, I've overcome, with 2 times cancer, I am dealing with other things like side effects. But I know
Yes, I know we spoke about that. We were pre-gaming. Yes, thank you.
I have to still push forward, because I can't let that deter me from, life. I
At
can't
that
just
song,
let it,
we come this far by faith. You think about
right.
that?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That those are the things that get me going. My thing is be still and know. Look at my book.
Right.
You need something to gravitate. So anyone listening, I know that everyone, they may not be a believer, but there is a grand architect, someone who was responsible for our existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Someone created us to make sure that
Right.
we have a brain and sound mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I'm gonna just go with that because today is the 22nd. I read this book. I'm gonna let the readers hear what it says. It says May 22nd is called retirement, right? It goes into
Mm-hmm.
that, but the prayer, I just want to hit that. It says, God, I believe in my heart that this journey will be worth it in the end. I know I need to slow down and refuel, and I
Mm-hmm.
know I will make mistakes, but I will keep my eyes fixed on you, even if I only make it a few inches forward each day. I will keep moving ahead. I do not want to grow weary and lose my heart
Mm-hmm.
and lose heart. So today, I always like when I want to show to see if it aligns. So think about that. How did that feel hearing that on today, May 22nd? A person who told me she's not really a public speaker, and you did well. You almost spoke an hour. So how are you telling me you're not a public speaker, ma'am? Yeah. So you overcame. So please add that to your list of you are a public speaker. You are. Because now you can listen to the playback and just know that despite it doesn't matter, you're speaking publicly to someone else that may need to hear that, who never knew that they were a survivor. But for you to share this with the world today, you are definitely a fierce survivor. And we thank you for stopping by. And Mark,
Mm-hmm.
because Mark is hiding in the winds, he must be doing his other job. But
No,
I
I
tell
know
you, Mark,
that you like to maintain these in-depth conversations and everything like that. But I'd actually put a question in the chat based on a friend of mine's journey, and she is a
mhm,
long-time cancer survivor and everything like that, breast cancer survivor, if I remember correctly, and everything like that. But I know that she is a big advocate for the kids in her life and everything like that. I don't think that Sharon has any kids of her own, but I know that she has got kids that she cares for and she's a caretaker for, including her sister's kids and everything along those lines. So I was just wondering, how much has this journey that you've had, Crystal, impacted your own kids' life and their health journey? Because I know that sometimes if a parent goes through these things, they will sometimes change their habits based on what they have seen their mother go through or their dad go through and everything like that. So I just wondered, how has your journey impacted your kids' own health journey? And do they get checked regularly for cancer and things like that because they know what you've been through?
They do get checkups, but they're okay. They're fine.
okay,
I mean,
because he
they
doesn't
were
know the age
concerned.
group. He doesn't know the age group. So
Oh, okay,
he
so
doesn't know the age group.
my daughter. Okay, so um, My daughter at the time when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, she was 4. She was starting pre-K. And my son, he was only 2 months old.
Well,
So
And how old are they now? I guess that's where we're getting
my
to.
daughter is 18 and my son is 15.
Right. So now with her being 18, now she knows with that preventative health. Because I know that's
Yes.
why I went to things earlier. So I guess that's
Hmm.
now at 18, then she'll be just doing her breast exams and all of that.
Right.
Right. Because
Yes.
that's something that you have to
And
do
I
because
informed
it could
them,
be
telling
young.
them about their diet. Teenagers have poor diets. So I try
Okay,
to.
so we know at your house, you're not gonna probably have all that inflamed dairy stuff. You're not gonna have yogurts and Go-Gurts.
No, but guess
I feel
what?
bad now. What about the Go-Gurts? Remember, my son loved the Go-Gurts. Remember the little Go-Gurts? We would freeze them and then put
Yeah,
in his lunchbox. What about
mhm,
those? They can have those.
that's dairy.
Wow. So
But
no Go-Gurts in
something
your
I did
house.
realize though, the kids. Let me tell you something. Because they're teenagers, they will order Uber Eats if they.
So
I
they
could
order
only
stuff that
tell
you
them.
don't know about.
Yes,
Ooh.
I could only tell them. You know what I mean? I could only tell them, but I
So did
always,
you look at the receipt, Crystal? Did you look at the receipt and see what they
or Uber
look.
Eats and DoorDash and things along
My daughter's
those lines.
18 years old now. She could stop by somewhere after work and
Well,
pick
now
up
she
something.
has her freedom, but you know what? I
Yeah.
wanted that, but it's called preventative. So I know the kids, the parents say don't smoke cigarettes. And I remember a friend of mine, she had her
Hmm.
ashes under her bed, and I was like, what at that time? I said,
Trust me, I'm always preaching to them about what they're eating. They be like, "Oh boy," I'm like, "Look, it's
because
better."
say I love you. So this the only thing.
Right.
So it's
I
like
don't want it
tough
to happen
love,
to you. Right.
You're a mother
right?
and everything like that. Just really quickly along those same lines and in that same space, how much did you pay attention? Because I know one of the things that people complained about during the pandemic and during COVID and everything like that was the nature of the food that is given to our kids in the school environment. So when they were in school, and it sounds like they are very much school age and everything like that, how much did you pay attention to the food and the food menus in the school system? And did you advocate for there to be more healthy food? Because I know a lot of times there's a lot of processed food in our school
Mhm.
cafeterias, whether that's in New Jersey or North Carolina, where I'm at, and everything like that. So, how much were you an advocate to try to make sure that there were healthy food in the school system?
They're not listening to that. I think Michelle Obama tried that, and that went out the window.
Well, my son took his lunch to school. That's what it is. So I made
Hmm.
his little lunch.
I
So
tried, but you know what? I was sending lunches to school, and they brought it back.
no, my son started doing too. I get a bill. I said I made you the lunch, and it was funny because I had this little. He had ravioli soup because I had the little
Hmm.
thermos. You had to put the hot water in there. He had hot dogs with buns. They said
Hmm.
he got hot dogs because I put him in the thermos. Remember, I was a Girl Scout. I put it in the thermos, and he pulling out hot dogs and the little thing. They said
Right.
your mother be giving you the good lunch. Miss Toya, can you make our lunch? So I mean, I was one of those. Yeah. Yeah. Now that I
It's
think
funny
back,
because kids always think that somebody else's food is better than yours because you're the mother. I don't know what it is.
because what,
But
everybody has their thing. My neighbor
right.
Spanish, and they used to have. She used to make 3 meals. Her and her husband had a os gandules. This one wanted spaghetti. This one went that. I said, huh?
Mm-mm.
In our household, it was one meal. You get what you get, and don't get
Right.
upset. But that these children don't know. That's a whole nother topic.
They don't know any
But
better. When they get older, they'll realize that I was telling the truth.
yes, exactly. But you know what? One thing I can say is that we listen to our parents, and sometimes those little things that we thought we were not listening to. Do you ever notice anything that you didn't want to do? Now you're doing it with your children.
Or how about when you say things, you say, "Oh my God, I sound like my mother." Oh my God, this is scary.
Yeah, so you have parenting. So the butterfly room listeners know we have a 2-time cancer survivor. You got to meet Crystal Shakir in the butterfly room. I know now more about her as a financial advisor. Now I know more about how she has been that fierce. I said the phoenix here. And behind you, you want to tell the listeners what you have written behind you in your background. What you have behind you. And it says faith.
Faith,
Uh-huh.
fierce, thrive, survive. Faith,
Yes.
fight, survive, and thrive.
Faith, fight, survive, and thrive. Love it.
Yeah, I
Love
love
it.
that
Love
too. I
it.
know you do
Thank
that.
you so much for sharing your healing journey.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Get her book. The link is on the Butterfly Room, and she has a closing prayer before we do our closing remarks for today. It said her closing prayer in her book is, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of your word, which brings comfort, healing, and hope to our souls. As we meditate on these scriptures, may your presence surround us, bringing peace and assurance in times of illness and distress. Strengthen our faith, O Lord, and grant us the courage to trust in your healing power. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Get this book. Quick read. There's some questions that you can answer. And now we know where you can find her at. I think she said on October 3rd of 2026, Mercer County. You can look her up. I'm going to post it on this site for anyone that's out here. She's thriving, y'all. And thank you for letting me into your journey. I'm
Thank you for having me.
I advise her and her sister. This is just weird financially, just to really see that you really are a thriver, because I would have never known. Never known. And when you call me, your picture falls, and she has these nice shades on. So that says to you, I'm gonna wait for my parting words. I'm gonna wait for my parting words before I say that. But Mark, any last questions for our guests for this evening?
No, I was just curious what advice, and then you kind of alluded to it, but for those that are on that survival journey and everything like that, what would your advice be for those that are on that survival journey, whether they're on that early part of the journey or whether they've been in that journey, like my friend has been in that journey for, I want to say 10 or 15 years. So what advice would you give for folks that are on the survival journey, much in the way that you have been, now being a two-time survivor?
I would suggest for those who are currently going through to try, some people don't like to talk, but don't be afraid to seek out for support and talk to someone, because someone you could confide in. Only surround yourself around positive people. That'll get you through. Of course, prayer. I mean, I'm deep in faith. I believe that without God, I wouldn't have gotten through what I've, been through. Of course, try at least to change the eating habits. Exercise is very important to stay, try to stay healthy, because your body has to move, and that's pretty much it. Try to stay active. Always have a positive thoughts. I know it's easier said than done, but try not to focus on what's not happening. Like, try not to focus on all the bad things that's going on in your life, and try to think about the positive and where you're going forward, like from there.
Thank you. I felt that. Everybody's is going through some changes. I tell you, the world is different right now. I know the little kids say weird. And I was talking I said, what do you mean by weird? And I know if Dr. Diamond was here, she said they're getting rid of our history. So you have to think that if you're people of color or anyone who has been through some changes as far as your family of origin or whatever, but when you take away the history, it takes away the struggle. You understand? So imagine if you had your children, they didn't know what you went through. They probably would not understand you. Right. And I think about that. And if folks have holes in their stories, I know I had holes in my stories, but I think that sometimes you have to be ready to receive the information, because depending on your personality or what you have already had on, I always tell people, for me, because I've survived a lot, I deal with my reality. As a mental health professional, I've heard a lot of stories. Someone to sit down and say, why are you here? They're coming in handcuffs, whatever it is may be, depending on what job that I've had. And then working in the inner city, you cannot judge a book by its cover, because you don't know what the person, even that movie with Will Smith, you didn't know he was homeless. You did not know. They went to the bathroom, they cleaned themselves, they did whatever. Then there was other movies. I think there was one, How You Fly High or something like that. It was a movie. The mother had an illness, and he was raising the children. The brother who was autistic in the car. I saw that movie. I can't think of it right now, but it's like Flying High, I think. But just to see that he persevered, and sometimes I feel that movies are out there to give us a message. Whoever wrote them is sharing a story. And if you look at it, I always want to see if it's inspired by a true story. And sometimes It may or may not be, but it has to be put out so that folks can have a little bit of empathy. Because you have to think about it. Your reality means that I get up, I'm going by what I face. I don't know what my neighbor has.
Right.
And as a mental health professional, I cannot be biased. And as you said, anyone that's surviving any type of illness or going through something, have empathy. Take the person's head off. And I tell men, especially with dating, if you wouldn't do it to your daughter, don't do it.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Right.
If you would not treat your daughter like that, don't treat another woman like that.
Yep.
You know, I have a son, but I am team female. Because I said to him, I told my son, a woman will hurt you. And imagine someone who has gone through an illness or something like that. That's why folks are in jail. That's all I can say. And, you know, just deal with your reality. And thank you for that. Staying positive. Because you never know what someone's on your plate. As I stated, I have to figure out how to talk to some family and friends about this loss that we had. Because now as you get older, you can see that if you lose babies, that's hard to deal with. So only thing is just have some empathy, people. Just really are. And thank you, because you know what? We all are survivor, but we want to be fierce, like Crystal.
Yeah, empathy is important. I did have one other quick question for you, Crystal, and everything like that. It's based on something that, and Toya may know where I'm going with this. My brother actually posted something not that long ago because he has got MS, and he said that it took him a while to realize that MS does, in some degree, define him and everything like that, because he does realize that people sometimes have to make adjustments because of what he goes on with his MS and everything like that. So I was just wondering your thoughts around that, and if you sometimes feel that being a survivor is part of your definition and defining you, because that's what my brother Malik posted on his website probably about 6 months or 9 months ago, because it took him a while to realize that to some degree it does define him, because it defines how people relate to him and everything like that. So I was wondering your thoughts around that, and whether these being a survivor and being breast cancer, and I forgot what the other one was, but being a survivor twice defines your existence.
I guess somewhat, but I don't allow it to like pretty much mark me. You know how in the Bible people were named by like their disease or their situation, they marked them.
The lepers, yes.
The leper, yeah. They didn't have a name, but they were
the women with the issue of blood. They didn't have a name.
Yeah, they were
just
defined by their
disposition.
disease. I don't let that define me, because that's in the past.
Good.
I'm moving forward.
Yeah, and that makes
So
sense.
as long as you can think of, you know, not focus on the MS,
right?
You know.
And see, you know what? And it's funny that you say that, because that's perspective. Right. And that's what we always have to think of, respect and perspective. So for me, a little different. You see what I mean? So that's where it's to the point of what a person, as far as their identity is concerned. Someone that's an empath may take it in, right? Yeah. And when you take it in, you have to bleed it out. And sometimes we bleed out. And that's why a lot of mental health professionals need to listen, because you're taking in someone else's pain and everything. And I know that because I can cry on the drop of a dime, because I can be empathetic, because I've heard stories. And when I see it being lived out, so that's the difference. When I hear, witness, and experience myself, it's hard, because now I know why some of the people, as a mental health professional for addictions, people were mentally ill, chemical abuser, or chemically ill, mentally ill, because at that time, a lot of people use substances because to run away from the pain. So that means you're strong, and that's why you're the fierce survivor. You get it, what I mean? So that's where the whole point is, understanding, meeting people where they are. You get it? So thank you, Mark, for that question, because that's something that I had to tell people. Well, I don't understand. I said, we're all unique. Right. You might, you know, you have 2 children. Don't they have different personalities?
Sure does.
So what you have to do is know that person. And guess what? I don't think I can say that to her, or I can say that to him, and vice versa. And I think that's what the people need to understand is no one's weak. I was told I was weak in certain situations. I know I'm not weak, but a lot of times my spirit said, sit down, Toya. Leave that alone. You ever had that little thing in your back of your mind? You're like, I don't know about that. Right. I don't think I should be speeding. Let me slow down. You ever been speeding and you got a ticket after that. Well, my spirit said I was going a little bit too fast,
Right.
you know, for example, just, you know, making humor.
Mhm.
Yeah, just get some good counsel. If you're a believer, get some
Right.
good counsel. That's all.
Right.
Believers don't hurt believers. Believers don't hurt people, right?
Right.
Same thing. So if you're a good parent, you're not going to give your child distress if you already know. That's all.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know better, you do better, right, Mark?
Right. Exactly.
No better,
Yes.
you do better. There's no doubt about that. And
So
even those people that have had ailments, because I had a friend that passed away a couple of years ago and everything like that, but they had a belief that they were going to live past their diagnosis and everything. So I am, and it sounds like you are as well, Crystal, a believer in the power of thought and the power of prayer and everything like that, because I know that for a fact that Michelle Gonzalez Green was probably given like 4 months to live or something like that, and I think she wound up living for about 2 or 3 years because she had a very positive attitude and she was not going to let the hospital define her end date. We all have a beginning and an end date, but she was going to let
Exactly.
God make that determination and not try to have the doctors make that determination, everything like that. Because part of that is also having that positive belief in yourself and everything like that.
Mhm.
I do think the positive beliefs can help us get through a lot of things. So that's what I know that she was doing, was she was having that positive thought, and she was actually recently married at that time and everything. So that gentleman that married her was fortunate to have her for longer than he was expecting to have her as his wife and everything like that. Because a short
that's
diagnosis
beautiful.
that she has.
It's
And to
beautiful
be
because
honest, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying that's beautiful, but I want to make sure you get your point.
And to be honest, also, like you said, the doctors give you this time, but the doctors didn't necessarily come out of their mouth and give me this time frame. But something we realized that after the first time having cancer as a teenager, years later, after I had my breast cancer, I had to go in for, well, no, prior to breast cancer back in 2005, I believe it was, I had to have another surgery. Because of the screws they put in were protruding. So I had to
it's like a corrective. Yes, my sister's going through that. So sometimes
they took it out.
To go back.
So my mother, she said to the doctor, I thought you said that it was, the screws staying for the rest of her life. And he looked at her and said, yes, for the rest of her life, which means that they didn't think that I was going to go beyond,
Wow. So it was like a puzzle and he didn't know how to respond. It sounded like to me.
And
wow.
Also,
that's a divine intervention, sound like to me.
Right. So actually about 5, maybe 6 years ago, my mother, she kept records of everything. Like she had extensive notes still from when I was a teenager of everything that I've gone through as a teenager, right? And
that sounds like another book, Crystal.
My mom, well,
whatever that is, those notes, it sounds like it's another manuscript. That's all I'm saying.
She gave me some of her notes, but she actually still had a letter from the oncologist written to the insurance company, the health insurance company. My father's job had insurance, so he had written a letter to extend my insurance and they said that I had stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
We didn't know that at the time. Back then, you diagnosed with cancer, nobody's thinking about staging.
So by you sharing it, I had to pause. On that.
Yeah, so we didn't know.
You are definitely a walking testimony. Stage 4 as a minor, and you're sitting here on in 2026.
So we didn't know that.
God. That's God. Yep. Our higher power made sure that despite all of that, to show the power of his works. And I have to say this, it's not even just about that works. The knowledge for someone to have the innovation to create drugs and things like that. That's what science is. And I always do that. People say, I'm visual, meaning that I go from a cellular level because I was a geek, honors math and science, because there's an answer. When it came down to English, logic, or things like that, it was harder, but something that I can take and put a petri dish, the periodic table, elements, or whatever, I can have an answer. And what you're explaining to you is sometimes we have to just let the pen put it down. so that everything can fold out. So thank you for that, because you literally at a young age had to pretty much pause, go through what you went through, live, right? Remember we talked about the beginning. Then you're disrupted again. So thank you, because it's a power of prayer, power of work, power of perseverance, power of family, power of support, power of perseverance, and your power. There you go, her power. And it's crazy because it's, oh boy, I got the chills. The song to close out this story. What's the name of the song, Mark?
Her Power.
Her Power. And we aligned.
Yeah.
My God. That's all I'm gonna say. Mark, you know how I am. I'm calculating, and I write down, and it's alignment, y'all. It's alignment. And I just want to thank you, Crystal. We started with technical difficulties today. She logged in, had a black screen. It was the rest. So now, how you feel? How do you feel? Because I've seen your glow. You're glowing up from when you first got on. I see her glowing. What you think, Mark? She's glowing. She's relaxed now.
No, she's definitely glowing and everything like that.
Glowing.
And I know she's got a friend that's been on here several times. Yes. He said Jesus, and he also said that he couldn't believe it, and gave an example of when your lungs collapsed, his heart fell to his feet and everything like that. So I do know that you've got a friend and friends that have been on here commenting and everything like that. So they were saying, thank God you're here and everything along those lines. So, and even Sakina H. Rucker had said that they were glad that you were a true miracle as well. So there have been people that have been watching and part of your friend circle and everything like that. So
you bloom, honey. You morphed. You morphed, boo. You morphed today. Our job is done, Crystal. How do you feel? You morphed. You morphed. How do you feel? How do you feel?
Good. I'm when I was having those technical difficulties, I'm like, what? The devil is
that's a precursor to a good
right.
Because I get faced with that when I plan it, and my mom T always says that's Murphy's Law. That's Murphy's Law. That's how I know it's gonna be good. I used to like get all upset. Remember, Mark? One day I couldn't get to him, his phone. I was like, I don't know what to do. I said, you gotta tell me something. And I'm very animated because I have this energy, and I'm perimenopausal. Oh my gosh, hypothyroidism. Oh my goodness. But I just laugh because sometimes we need that grounding, because every day it's a struggle sometimes, but sometimes you need that little fire in your behind to get you to do something. I prepare. This is my process. I started early, and as you know my process. Crystal called me. I said, Wednesday, I just need your picture. So now I'm like, and now you get it why I did that way. So now you were able to sleep on it, right? You got it. And then today you woke up. How did you feel with that process to prepare for today's show? Did it help? I'm doing a survey. Did it help you?
It did. I mean, I was pretty much prepared. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I just like to feel the energy so I know where to go, because usually I let the creator do everything else. We have the book, and now you have to sign mine. Because you live in South Jersey, but I'm going to be able, so you can come personally sign my copy.
Yeah.
And but thank you so much for blessing us this evening. We're going to do our parting words. So what do you want the last thing the viewers to hear you say today before we exit our show?
Stay encouraged, right? No matter what you're going through, it's not the end. You just have to keep fighting. And those who are battling any type of sickness or disease, that all sicknesses are not unto death.
Amen.
Keep God first, and everything else will follow.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. Well, one thing I was going to agree with what Toya said earlier, I don't know whether you think of yourself as a public speaker, but I was in the background listening and hearing the entire interview and everything like that before coming on the show. So I do think that you have a future as a motivational speaker and a public speaker and all along those lines. So you ought to look at that as a possibility, because you are a inspiring person that gives an inspiring message, and we need more of those inspiring messages and all along those lines. Because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, it's all about the dash in between. We all have a birthday and we all have an end date, and it's what we do at that time in between, because we all have a purpose. I was actually having a conversation with a friend and a coworker earlier today, and we were talking about a job situation and some people that were getting a little special in their job and everything like that, because sometimes people are too caught up in their job titles and everything along those lines. But at the end, there's that whole notion of, will we actually see what's going on and when we reach heaven's gates and everything like that? Because there's this notion of us being lights when we make it up to heaven's gates. But I am of the belief that we are there to help the people that are left behind and everything like that, because I know that I've got some spiritual guides in my life among the ancestors, including some in my own family and some that were in my friend circle as well. So I am one of the people who believes that they are helping guide our steps even after they've left this particular planet and all along those lines. So we can do our job while we're here, and I do think that part of your job is being a motivational speaker based on what I heard here today and everything like that. I do think that you have a future in this, should you choose to make it that part of your life and all along those lines, because that's kind of where I was going with my brother. Was while he might say that the disease defines him, he also uses it as a tool to help him get people that are going through what he's going through, but also just his life in general, because he also works with a lot of at-risk youth and everything like that. So definitely we have to know our purpose and do our part to achieve our purpose, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to give my words. Again, you bloom, Crystal. Thank you for sharing your story. And now, like I said to you, I usually like to just skim, but now I want to hear something. So when I go through, I can take it all in and know that, the purpose of what I am doing, it is reaching the audience and, letting folks know that, we walk by faith, not by sight, because sometimes we don't know what we're going to have on our plate, as you just said, and to hear that decades of your life of not even being an adult, and now to see that perseverance and letting someone else out there know, doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, stay locked in and knowing that you can do all things. And if, sometimes the support system may not be blood, it may be an extended family. You understand? Because I know that in the Black community, sometimes, there was a message at my church, the first lady said about love. Real love, sometimes it may not come from the traditional place, but as long as you have that, so that you can get to what you need to. Someone may need that because you're looking for something, but if someone's going to openly give it to you, don't accept it, because that might be your blessing. That may be your blessing to anyone that's listening. So thank you again. And as we know, the song that I picked today to close out our show, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at 8:00. But the song I picked, I have a music song every day on my show, and now this one came up. I said, Her Power. And look who you are. You ready? Take us out. So we'll see you soon. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Enjoy the holiday weekend, y'all.
You're going to take it out with Her Power. And by the way, Toya, just to let you know, that book you were trying to think of was Pursuit of Happiness, because I've actually got it down.
Thank you.
And
I couldn't see. I had a brain fart, but thank you, Mark.
It's actually the story of Chris Gardner and everything like that, who, like you said, he was a homeless person, but he was actually also a business person as well. But definitely, that's what that is. So we're going to close out with Her Power. I want to see that ribbon, Mark. Yep.
Thank you. We got to make sure we good.
To every woman who kept going,
I got the ribbon.
Even when it got heavy. This your reminder. She don't hold. She been holding it down. 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 No applause. She been holding it down. No applause. Yeah, shit. She been holding it down. No applause. carrying weight, never showing the cost. Smiling through pain, still standing tall. They don't know what it took at all. She the backbone, she the glue. She the strength when nobody knew. Every scar got a story to tell. Still she rising, still she doing well. They tried to break her, she got stronger. They tried to rush her, she went longer. Now every move hit different. She built different. Hey, she don't fall, she elevate. Pressure made her resonate. Independent, strong and brave. She the moment, she the wave. Her power can't deny. See the fire in her eyes. She survived, she revived. Now she thriving, watch her rise. Now she thriving, watch her rise. Pretty face, I admire. She don't chase, she redefine. They was doubting, now they see. She became what she believed. No permission, no approval. She the blueprint, she the movement. While they talking, she improving. Every loss turned into proof. She ain't asking for a seat. She the table, she the feast. Every step she take loud. Not a world, watch her speak. Through the night she cried alone. She still built a life of her own. Now the light inside her glow and it shines. She don't fall, she dominate. Every move she make, create. She a queen, no debate. Watch her step into her fate. Her power, say it loud. Stand tall, stand proud. Every woman in the crowd, you the strength right now. You were never weak. You were just becoming.